to be known to me as Mr. and Mrs. Bradley because I was friends with their son Simon. So I will leave you after that.
Right. Well, I'll start off with this. I was born into a family of one of 6 children, and we all attended St. John's Church in Tipton. The reason for this is because my mother was on the church council, and also she had quite a senior position in the Mothers' Union. So you can understand why we had to attend church. Of course, it was morning service on a Sunday, Sunday school in the afternoon, and then the evening song in the evening. It was what we class as High Church of England, so I became an altar boy, and I used to swing the incense in church at all services. This went on, as I say, for quite a number of years. Then at the age of 11, my father died. And this, of course, money was tight and all that. So I decided to get a paper round, which was round the church. So it was up here early in the morning, deliver papers, and back to church for the 8 o'clock service. Sometimes there was only just me and the vicar there. Sometimes we had quite 1 or 2 other people arrive, but this went on for a number of years. Then we had a change of vicar, and the new vicar I just couldn't get on with. I didn't see eye to eye, and I said to him one day, "It's either you go or I go." And knowing that the vicar couldn't go, obviously, I went my own sweet way. At the age of 15, I left school and I got a job in tailoring and then in gents outfitting. While I was in the gents outfitters, a young fella came to work with us by the name of Morris Chandler, Joe's uncle. And Morris, was a really devout Christian. He really went to Eve Lane, and he was really good. We used to have many good arguments and discussions about religion because I knew what Morris was saying was correct, but Morris didn't know my background of church. So therefore we used to have these really sessions of argument, who was right, this was right, that was wrong, this was other. And so that went on, but I still went my own sweet way. After a few years, I became a teddy boy, which of course being as in a gents outfit was quite easy to do because I could have all these things. And then I also purchased a motorbike and was a motorbike clan. And then I became a regular attender of the Rising Sun pub in Cosley. And also, while I lived there, I attended the youth club at Flavel Avenue. And I became the Flavel Avenue Youth Club representative on the Tipton, Cosley and Sedgley youth meetings. They used to hold the meetings in Dudley. Anyway, that gave me the opportunity to go to other youth clubs and go around there. I attended the youth club in Park Lane, and I went there for a few times. And then I met my wife, Judith. So over to Judith.
I hope you've bought your supper. This is going to be quite long. While Alan was being very devout at his Church of England, I was playing in the front garden and swinging on the gate. And this came around because I got parents who were of mixed religion. My father's family were all devout Methodists. My mother's family were all even devout Roman Catholics. And I imagine that before my arrival and my brother's, there was a great deal of argument going on. And it resulted in us not going anywhere. And we were on the aforesaid gate, swinging in the garden, when a very lovely man, the superintendent of the Sunday school at the Baptist Church in Dudley, who'd obviously passed us many a Sunday, he asked my mother if we could go to church. Oh no, they're Catholics, she said. But having realised that it was Sunday and we were just playing in the garden, she agreed. Now, I was at that church for a number of years, probably from being sort of 4 or 5 until I went to secondary school. And it was a very happy time. I loved it. I loved learning about Jesus. I loved being taught to say prayers and to read the Bible. And a lot of the children from round about where we lived, just off the Broadway, they were there too, and it really was a happy time. But I knew a lot of facts. I didn't know Jesus. And that was how things went on. A friend of mine, a classmate, said, do you want to come to our youth club? And I said, oh, well, you live in Tipton? Yeah, it's in Park Lane. And I said, well, that's 2 buses for me. Oh, go on. And I said, yeah, okay, I'll try it. And that's, of course, where I met Alan. I was 17, and he was a year older. And he was a teddy boy, and he did ride a motorbike, a big, what was it, a matchless?
Matchless, yeah.
And I was a very well-behaved, good little girl. In fact, I have to be honest, I was attending by that time the Dudley Girls High School. I was destined for great things academically, and I thought, cool, I like this bloke. And with his motorbike and his teddy boy trousers. What I didn't know was that he's the kindest and gentlest of people, and that he was looking after an invalid mother and a younger brother with polio. And we've been together ever since. We were separated for at least 3 years because I went to university and I didn't stay at home. I went to Liverpool. And in that time, you moved from gentleman's house fitting to join Dudley Metropolitan Borough Council and worked as a sort of housing social worker. When I went to the high school, my main subjects were English and French. And we had a French teacher who was a very devout Catholic, and you know what's coming. Somehow Catholics believe that when they go to heaven, if they've converted people or drawn people to their faith, that they get a few brownie points. And she got the school register where you'd have to say what your religion was. And of course my mother had put me down as a Catholic. And so she gathered us together. She ran us through a mincing machine of confirmation and first communion and so on. And I, without really blinking, before I knew where I was, I became a Catholic. I never do things by halves, so I went along with this. I attended the services, I obeyed the rules, and I thought to myself, when I get to university, I'll escape it. But she wrote a letter to the chaplain at Liverpool University, Father McGoldrick, and so I had 3 years. I don't know whether you've heard of Paddy's Wigwam. It's the name they call the Roman Catholic Cathedral in Liverpool because it's concrete so far and then sort of rods the rest. Only the croft was finished. The crypt was finished, and we worshipped in the crypt. And it's tough being a Catholic because there's rules and there's regulations. You don't make up your own, well, you can make up your own prayers, but you are given prescribed prayers that you say over and again. And I did all of it. And as I say, I don't do things by halves. So I gave myself into it thoroughly. But I wasn't happy. I didn't feel any joy in it. And I thought, well, what's happened to that Jesus that I knew when I was first told about him? And, you know, I wondered if I'd ever find him again. You wouldn't believe we could have lasted 3 years and another year at Birmingham University, but we did. And when I was 21, we got married. We got engaged. No, hang on. No, we got engaged when I was 21. I think we finally got married in 93. No, 73.
64, dear.
It's the man who's supposed to forget the wedding day. It was 63. 63, yes. And we've been together ever after. We've got 2 children who are now in the late 40s, early 50s. And they both went to uni and they live very happy lives. And I am coming to the religious bit. But there was to go a complete change in our ways of worshipping and everything. And it all started with our son, Simon. So I'll get my breath back while Alan tells you how that came about.
Simon was at school at Dormston, and one of his friends was our dear pastor, Steve Hyde. And Matthew, the younger one, was in another form, and he was with Steve's brother, Philip. And Philip and Matt were very, very close together. They were very, very good. This went on until Simon decided to go with Dave Langford, who was the music teacher at Dormston, decided to take a group of lads to the outreach, which was held in the custard factory in Hall Street in Dudley. So they went on, and that was it. He went to there. Then, at the same time, Steve's dad, Dave, he's in tonight, he decided to take them on to the next session, which went on for, I think, a week or a fortnight? Fortnight. After that, Simon decided to go to church, and he went to Eve Lane with Steve, and we thought, this is going to be a 9-day wonder, it'll all blow over, but it didn't. Then the church, Dave, Steve's dad, Roger Meredith and Maurice White set up the church down the road. A lot of the work, as you see, there's some photographs somewhere around here of the way the place was. It was in a real derelict situation, the church down the road. And a lot of the lads got together and did a lot of the labouring work and a lot of the work to turn it into a nice church as it was. This went on, as I say, that Simon and then Matthew decided to go as well because Phil was going, so they all decided to go down the road. Then we had folks at home say to us, well, why is it that 2 lads, teenagers like that, want to go to church? What is it? What's this church? What is it? What sort of thing does it do? And all the rest of it. So we said to ourselves, we'll have to have a look into this and see what it is. Then Simon came and said he wanted to be baptised. And I said, baptised? You were christened when you were a child. You don't want to watch all this. So Judy and I decided that we'd have to go to this church and find out what it's like. So we came down the road and we sat there in the meeting and went through and everything was all right. And after the meeting, Roger Meredith came to me and said, did you enjoy that? I said, no. I said, you're all a lot of raving lunatics. I said, how can you all stand up and shake your arms and so and jump and dance around and pray out loud and all this, that and the other? And he said, well, it's the way we see the vision of God shows us what we should do and all the rest of it. So I said, no, it's not for me, because I was been used to the set service in the Church of England. It was bump, 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 and that was it. I mean, I could go back now to a Church of England service. No, I doubt whether it's changed any different to what it was. So that was that. So off they went. Judy and the boys used to go on a Sunday and all the rest of it. And I used to take them there and then go back home. And it went on for quite a few weeks and that. And one Sunday morning I was sitting at home, just sitting there thinking of what was happening. And a voice spoke to me. And it said, Alan, you shouldn't be here. You know where you should be. You should be with Judy and the boys at church. It makes sense. This was the voice of the Lord or one of his wonderful angels. So after that, the next week, I decided I'd go to church with them. So off to church I went with them and went quite a few weeks. And it was one Sunday evening, Maurice White was preaching, and I don't know what he said, but he actually said something that hit me and thought, yes, Alan, you've got to give your life to the Lord. Wow. You are this. So after the meeting, Maurice said, if you say this prayer, so I said the prayer and I gave my life to the Lord, and I've never looked back since. So over to Judy.
I think the last thing I was saying was that I knew an awful lot about God and religion, but I didn't know God. When I came into the church down the road, which was called Sedgley Full Gospel Church at that stage, I found such a different atmosphere. I found out just what it meant to Jesus Christ to give his life in the way that he did for me, and that he would have done it just for me if there hadn't been anybody else. I was moved beyond measure, and by his grace that, my life had been so easy and so cushy almost. We'd had tragedies, of course, who doesn't? But we'd been so blessed by God. And I just knew that what I'd been looking for all these years and bouncing around from one religion to another. And I didn't want religion, I wanted faith. And that's what I felt was being shown in this gathering, this church. Church is not the building, is it? It's the people. And I did think that I'd found, that I'd come home, that this was the place I wanted to be. And we've been there, well, I've lost count, but we've been there an awful long time. And I've really found more about God, and God has been more wonderful to me since we came. I mean, I did actually get baptised before Alan. In fact, you didn't come to church on a Sunday at all before I got baptised, but you did turn up on that night, didn't you? But I didn't attempt to push him at all. I just wanted him to give his life as I had, but he did it on his own in the end, which was great. And I would say to all of you, you can study religion, you can attend and find out rituals and so on, but until you know Jesus and you know that he loves you and that he's looking after you, you will not find true peace. Now, I have to make a little confession. During my years, I have at various times suffered from anxiety. When I say not just worrying, I could worry for England. I used to. And I used to get very, very anxious. Just as one situation was solving itself, another one would come along for me to worry about. And since I came to know Jesus as a friend, as a father, and all those things he is to us, I don't worry anymore. It's not that I've not got anything to worry, I could worry about, because, as you probably know, both of our sons are seriously ill. But in spite of those things, I can achieve nothing by worrying, but I can achieve a lot by trusting. And I do trust him. I believe, because I don't go around saying, why us? Why should this happen? These lads who brought us to the knowledge of Christ, why should it happen to them? I don't know why, but I trust that all will be well. Amen. And all manner of thing will be well. Hallelujah. For God will have it so. That's become a kind of motto of mine. Do you think there's anything to add?
Well, there's one thing I would like to say to all of you. Whatever the problem is, give it to the Lord and he will solve it. I don't pray out loud, but I do always give whatever problem I have, I give to the Lord. And over the years, he has solved many, many, many things that I've asked him to. So all I say is, if you have a problem, give it to the Lord.